Hej world, jag heter Zack the Demon Lord. Hey world, it's me again, Zack the Demon Lord, in my second YouTube video ever. So yeah, as you could tell from the title of this video could be controversial to some, but yeah, I guess. Yeah, kind of an update since the last video though, even though it doesn't pertain to this video with a hair update. Not so much my hair, but the beard. I don't know how well you guys can tell, but since the first video, which was about hair growth, I have received a beard trim, which you will see mentions of when I finally come out with the year-long hair growth process video. But yeah, the hair's been good. It's definitely started to get longer, which I'm happy. The longer, the better. But yeah, now I guess getting back into the actual topic of this video. So, as you can read in the title, this video is dedicated to explaining why I have left and I'm currently leaving the Mormon Church, and to why I am in my new religion of Norse Paganism / Norse Heathenry / Asatru. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I guess as it comes to the Mormon faith, there's I guess a lot of reasons, I guess, for those that don't know about me, because obviously not everyone will have info on my personal life. It's not like everyone on the internet is my personal friend that I grew up with or anything. But, yeah, I guess I'll tell my journey of Mormonism, sort of. For those of you who don't know, I was born into a Mormon family. My family was inactive, though, so I didn't quite realize what religion we were for the longest time. There was a point where my mom and dad split up, they got divorced, and they went their separate ways. And through going their separate ways, I ended up spending a lot of my time more with my mom and her family, and through being able to, I guess, visit and see my grandparents on my mom's side more, I was able to get a hint more of what religion we were, but quite didn't understand it quite yet. Because you gotta think, unless you're a kid that grows up in church since you're a baby, you're gonna be like, I don't know what a church is, I don't know what religion is. So I didn't quite realize what we were, or that there was even a difference between different religions or anything. It wasn't until a few, I don't know how long exactly later, but it wasn't until later that I figured out the difference of religions. Elementary school days, somewhere between there, there was an episode of Family Guy, believe it or not, that struck the question to me, because, you know, in Family Guy, as is done often, they always make fun of people that believe in religions, but usually specifically the Catholics or the Jews, right? And so through hearing those sort of jokes, I thought to myself, well, what religion are we, if any? And so I asked my mom, I was like, hey mom, you know, saw these jokes on Family Guy and I was just wondering, you know, what religion are we? Which is where I learned we were the Mormons. Not that I knew what the hell that even meant, but we were the Mormons, apparently. But yeah, not officially. I hadn't been baptized at that point. It wouldn't have been until later. But through, I guess, maybe um, just various people seeing this lack of religion in our lives, especially my mom being like, yeah, my kids don't really know anything about this religion. Maybe we should have the missionaries over. And so there's a lot of failed attempts and some successful attempts of having the missionaries over. To those that don't know, the missionaries of the Mormon Church have specific rules, and one of these rules is that they can't enter the house of a single female unless there is 3 males total, and usually missionaries are in two. And so when you get elder missionaries or guy missionaries in your house, and if you're a single female, they have to somehow get a third person, whether that's uh, that single person becoming not single and having a boyfriend or husband, or whether that's the missionaries being able to somehow find a third missionary to come with them, or whether that's they ask a member of the church to come with them to their lesson. They have to find some way for there to be that third male. And the opposite is also true. 2 female missionaries couldn't enter the house of a single male. They'd have to find and somehow conjure up a third female. Which kind of sounds ridiculous, but I kind of understand the practice because it's to try to eliminate any sort of bad stuff happening if you catch the gist. But whatever the case is, because of that, missionaries couldn't enter the house for the most part. So it wouldn't be till my mom found and met my stepdad and they got married that we would be able to receive the missionary lessons and eventually be baptized. Because part of the Mormon faith, I don't know how all churches work, but part of the Mormon faith is in order to be baptized, you have to be taught sort of their views in the most basic form. And if you accept those views, then you're Gucci. You can get baptized as long as you accept them and if you're following them. Pretty heavy emphasis on the following, which we'll kind of get to later. But basically, at the age of 13-ish, got baptized. Throughout that last year, middle school and throughout high school, we went through active spurts. Uh, we were technically inactive, which is just this term for didn't go to church often, but when we did go to church, we tried to go as often as we could. So we would go in spurts of attending for at least a few weeks, if that makes any sense to anyone watching this video. Every now and again. But yeah. And I would say, because of the lack of religion in my life and the lack of understanding religion in my life, as I became a member of the Mormon Church, I was very much interested in learning everything I could, like how does God work, how does heaven work, all that stuff I wanted to understand. Because before that, I didn't really have any particular belief. I was just living life, you know? But I think, and this is one thing I do appreciate that the Mormon Church did give me, although my views have changed, is there'd often be times prior, especially in middle school, that I would go into these like deep, filling sort of thought. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like this weird feeling of what happens after I die. Like, it was just a deep trance. Okay, yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry for the split. My camera decided, hey, let's just have the batteries die. So, yeah, that was the thing. But Yeah, as I was saying, though, getting back to my story, yeah, often I'd get into these trances of what happens after I die, and sometimes these trances felt really deep, and so I do appreciate that the Mormon religion gave me sort of an idea that I could accept for the time being of where do we go after we die. But yeah, um, but yeah, just to keep going. After baptism, yeah, as I had said, we were kind of inactive, as said, but also active. Like we would go when we could. Um, but yeah, I guess next step would be just middle school, not middle school, sorry, high school. Um, for the Mormon Church, there's this thing called seminary. To be honest, I didn't learn about seminary until I was about to become a junior. So I was like, well, I guess I better take that. It's kind of late to get the other 2 years in, but might as well take the years I can. And so I took it my junior and senior year. Took the seminary classes, which I think other churches do this sort of thing, but it's basically like church school for the youth, where they teach, where you read through scriptures and they kind of tell you what the scriptures mean and also give you like historical context and stuff along with the scriptures. So it's just like in-depth religious studies, if that makes sense to anyone. Although it's not that in-depth because there were quite a few people that would take seminary just so that way they could take a fat nap or skip class. So, because they viewed it as not important because it does not reflect on your school curriculum. Because at least how it worked where I'm from, you had to take a release period, which is like a class space that does nothing for you. You're not earning any sort of credit for that sort of class period because it's for going to work or going to uh, something like seminary, which is what obviously Mormons mainly used it for, is the seminary class. Although you didn't have to take the release, from my understanding, although I think it's very specific. I think for the freshman year seminary students, which I'm glad I didn't do this because I would have had no way to get there and it would have fucking sucked. I'll have to somehow find out how to bleep that out, but anyways, what I meant to say is it would really suck. Is it make them take 0 hour, which is basically you go to seminary before all of your school period classes, if as if school isn't rough enough as it is. I mean, I like school, but I could imagine it sucking for those that don't like school and don't want to be there, especially since I'm not a morning person. I am a night owl, so getting to school early in the morning is rough as it is. And I was a bus kid, so can't really get there before. Don't have my own wheels. But yeah, did that. Um, and then I graduated high school. Got some certificates from them saying, "Hey, you took 2 classes," and of course they bug you about, "Hey, do you want to take the other 2 classes though? That way you can graduate as an actual knowledgeable person." I'm like, I'm good. I don't need seminary graduation. I will say though, during those 2 years, so they dedicate. It's not like this nowadays. Nowadays they have a specific curriculum that it revolves around a certain, I guess, study guide that the church released for all peoples. But they used to base it off of like, this year we're going to read these scriptures. This year we're going to read these scriptures. For those of you that don't know, the Mormon religion boasts having 2 different sets of scriptures that we mainly use, but in reality we have 4. And my 2 years, it was all the Mormon ones, which kind of sucked. But yeah, so just like anyone else, we use the Bible, or I'm gonna say they, because I'm not part of it, even though I technically am. I'll get there later. But yeah, they use the Bible, both the Old and New Testament. So they don't focus on one specifically. Although, just like any Christian religion, the New Testament does have slightly more emphasis, just because it does relate more to teachings of Jesus. Um, but specifically, they use like the New King James Version or something, because they find it to be more accurate. The Mormon Church has a sort of belief system that they believe in the Bible so long as it's translated correctly. How they prove that the New James Version is most translated correctly, I don't know, but they claim it's most translated correctly. I think it would mainly have to do with the fact that the New King James Version is like the most English version of it. Like, it was made and assembled by a king of England himself. I think that's more so what it has to do with, but that's just my opinion. But yeah. Moving on though. Yeah. So learned uh, in the uh, seminary classes all about the Mormon scriptures specifically, which encompass uh, which are three extra sets of scriptures. There's the infamous Book of Mormon that everyone knows and hears about. That's quote unquote the Mormon Bible, which is fairly true, although the church uses both the Bible and the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon often gets so much emphasis that there's a lot of Mormons that go their whole life without even bothering looking at the Bible, which I find very sad because the Bible's where Jesus is at. So, or at least under a Christian view, that's what you should be doing, is looking at the Bible, because that's where Jesus is at. As you could tell, since I broke away, sort of, not too long ago, it's kind of, I don't know how to express things, so, yeah, anyways, it's going to be a long video. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's two others. There's the Doctrine and Covenants, which are basically all the leaders of the Mormon Church, which are referred to as prophets and apostles, and usually these are directly affected by prophets themselves. Basically, yeah, we believe, kind of like old times with Jesus, that there are prophets and apostles, or they believe that, and that the prophets themselves, and sort of in correlation with the apostles, they English, hard language, they receive revelation from from God about things. And so basically, Doctrine and Covenants is basically revelation from God, supposedly, and basically his rules that he wants the people, the Mormons, to live by. Yeah, that's basically what it is. And I will mention the Doctrine and Covenants isn't going to mention all the rules, because there's some rules outside of that, which I'll get into in different sort of books. But yeah. And then the other one is Pearl of Great Price. And this book is a little peculiar. So basically, the gist of this book is that supposedly Joseph Smith got some manuscripts slash I can't think of the word, I'm blanking, but basically like some scrolls that he claimed were the story of like Abraham from the Bible, like the Old Testament, and that it had the full and correct writings of it, and that basically he translated it. Later on, through certain linguists and scientists, has been debunked. Although the church will say, well, it's inspiration, and that's what matters. But yeah. as if that makes any sense. But yeah. So basically, yeah, that's the first half of it, and then the second half is basically like the history of Joseph Smith, like Joseph Smith's childhood and to him and how he ended up creating the church and sort of maybe his journey through the church and how he died. And that's basically Pro Price for you. They do focus more on the Doctrine and Covenants in that sort of second year, rather than the Pro Price. But yeah, that's what I learned about. It's not very important, but just know that during that sort of time period of me being in seminary and high school, all I ever learned about was the Book of Mormon and other Mormon scripture. Anyways, fast forward. I graduate. Um, like any Mormon, I was pretty gung ho about serving on a Mormon mission because that's what Mormons do. Once you graduate, you go and serve the Lord. That's what you're told to do, and that's what you're encouraged to do. So that's what you do. Unfortunately for me, I won't go into detail. I don't want to demonize people at all. But my stepdad, he's like, no. If you're there with me and you know who I am, maybe you can get some ideas or reasons why. But yeah, my stepdad, not the biggest, not the biggest friend of mine. I don't know how to very safely go about. Basically, uh, it's more that he tolerates my existence and what I want to do rather than anything else. And he's often been harsh on me. I'll just put it that way. Basically, in a nutshell, after graduation, he's like, no, you're not going on a mission quite yet. I don't think you're man enough. I don't think you know the world enough, which to me I found funny, seeing as I am a linguist and history buff that just loves learning about people and languages and how languages have evolved and people and cultures and how the world works, both in the past and today. I'm interested in those sort of topics, so I found that kind of ridiculous, but nevertheless, she said no. And so, for the first year after high school, I kind of spent sadly working a lot. I ended up becoming, not that this is important to the video and what the topic is, but I ended up becoming a crew trainer at McDonald's and a closer. And so I would go in the afternoon and stay there till early in the morning. Just work, work, work. Pretty much 5 to 6 days a week because I had nothing better to do. I will admit, later on in sort of the journey of that, I started becoming discouraged and like, am I even going to go on a mission? Is it even worth it? Luckily and unluckily, though, my mom supported me. Luckily, because at that time, it is something I really wanted to do, and I believed it was something I needed to do. But unluckily, as we'll get into later, missions and, yeah, the church. Not my favorite anymore. But we'll get into that later. But yeah. But I persevered at some point. I got a mentality of, he's never going to prove so, and it's my life, so I've got to buck up and just do it anyways. So I bucked up and I put in my missionary papers around the time of. It was basically I put them in right before COVID started. So back in 2019 of December is I think when I put them in. And then, yeah. Basically, what putting your papers in means is that you sign all the I want to be a missionary application and you send it off to church headquarters. And then they give it back to you within a few weeks to a few months about yay or nay and where are you going. So, and by the way, to those that aren't familiar with the Mormon Church, your mission is Going on a mission is your choice, but where you go is not your choice. The prophet and apostles receive revelation of where you need to go. You have very little say. The closest thing to having a say in where you go, I didn't see this, but apparently there's a comment section where you can make comments of, if I could, I would love to go here. They're probably not going to listen to what you want, but you can do that route. Or there's also the second route of, hey, I can speak these languages pretty well, which is how I kind of went where I went. But yeah. Yeah, anyways, yeah. A few months later, I get my call.